Rolling. Welcome, you guys. My name is Dr. Jeremy Faue. I'm a chiropractor here in Plymouth, Minnesota at Experience Wellness Chiropractic. I'm rocking the Experience Miracles shirt today because every day that's what we get to see in our office. That's what we get to work with when we work with the amazing people in the community that we get to deal with. And one thing you'll notice is Dr. Bob Zajac, who was going to be joining me for this evening. I hope all of you got the email. Dr. Bob came down ill just on Monday, and he actually lost his voice. So he's not going to be joining us. We're going to be rescheduling the kind of another session with Dr. Bob because there's so many questions that people have that we want to get answered, especially in this climate that's going around today. But I assure you the message that's coming out tonight is the same. The workshop is going to be the same, and he encouraged us to continue on in his absence. So please send your prayers up to Dr. Bob for fast healing. But we wanted to make sure that he healed up really quickly as fast as possible so he could get back to seeing and serving all of his amazing practice members at New Kingdom Pediatrics all around the metro. So again, Dr. Bob won't be joining us tonight, but he's with us in spirit. And thank you all for being here on the call with us tonight. Dr. Bob has been a good friend and colleague of mine for, a better part of a decade, probably 10 years. Even before I started in practice, he was one of the first resources that I connected with. And tonight, the big reason that we wanted him on tonight is because we're going to be talking a ton about what we call raising healthy kids naturally. And quite honestly, it takes a team, right? It takes a village to raise a kid, but also on your healthcare team, it really does take a team of like-minded individuals that are all working together, that want the best for you, and most of all are willing to listen so that you feel heard and you feel validated, and also to move forward on a plan that everyone is on board with. So I'm really missing him tonight, but I'm really excited to go forward with you guys on this. And I was just mentioning before I hit record to one of the comments in here, my wife is pregnant, due with our fourth baby here in just a couple of weeks. And so just not wanting to just go, okay, let's do this next week, because I don't know that we'll be able to do it in our office with me next week. So I want to get this message to you guys. It is so vitally important in the world that we live in right now to hear this message. And so thank you all for being here. Really, this message, I've got like three different types of parents that we're really connecting with tonight. Number one, we have kind of the brand new people who don't really know us, that don't really know Dr. Bob. You've kind of been referred to this kind of natural community of practitioners and chiropractic and New Kingdom. And maybe you're new to parenting, or you're thinking about having kids, and you just want to make sure that you get that start right out off on the right track. And that's amazing. Welcome to you guys for being here. I can't wait to share this information with you guys tonight. Group number two is that a lot of the parents that find us are kind of already traditionally on the medical route. They're on this traditional healthcare route, and they're stuck, or they're looking for other information. They're looking for a different way. Maybe their kids have kind of been down the road of chronic ear infections, or kind of that croupy sickness that comes every year. They're just not as healthy as they want to be. Maybe they're dealing with some diagnoses that they think that they can get through naturally. And quite honestly, most of them you likely can. And we want to encourage you and support you all the way through this. So welcome you guys. If you're on that traditional route and you're looking for a change, or you're just looking for more information, welcome. And the third group, and it's probably the majority of you on here, you're our crunchy mamas, the crunchy parents. You're kind of already on this natural healthcare bandwagon. You're using essential oils. You use Norwex products. You're already seeing a chiropractor. You're working with New Kingdom, and you just can't get enough, and you want to dig in and you want to learn more. So welcome. I know we're going to go deep into kind of the nervous system and how our body works tonight, and really what it means to start to develop true health from a foundational level. And so I know you're going to get a ton out of this tonight as well. So welcome to all of you. And who are we here at Experience Wellness? We are a team of practitioners. I am, Dr. Jeremy Faue. I started it, but really I am nothing without this crew of support and amazing colleagues that I get to work with every day. We're a team of now 4 doctors. 4 chiropractors on staff, Dr. Allison and Dr. Brenna, who are in the back office ready to field questions on the chat tonight with you guys. And then Dr. Kevin, shout out to you. I saw you on here tonight. He's our newest addition to the office. Incredible that we get to continue to grow and expand the amazing practitioners and healing hands that get to work with this community. And really we're a team that continues to expand because there's so many people looking for answers and looking for help. We have an amazing support staff on our office of care coordinators, Maria and Jackie and Carly, that are here to help you and help serve you along the way from, point A, wherever you meet us, to, A, B, C, D down the road, however far you want to work with us. So we have an unbelievable team that's dedicated really to sharing the truth with you and sharing, our principles of health and healing. And I hope you get that from us tonight. So why does the team that you choose matter so much, right? Why does it matter so much, the people that you work with, when we're talking about raising healthy kids? I have an infographic that went out, or should have gone out in one of our emails promoting this tonight. And I just want to read the state of healthcare right now for the kids in the United States alone. And it should be really eye-opening to go, how are we on this? And how is this acceptable, for as parents and as communities? How do we just sit back and go, yeah, this is something that we aren't going to fight back against and change? Because right now, the number of children in the United States with a chronic health condition has dramatically increased, doubling from 12.8% in 1994 to almost 27% in 2006. And it's been on a continuous rise since then. We are number one. Cancer is the leading cause of death by disease in children. More than 15,000 kids in the United States are diagnosed every year. 1 in 13 kids have food allergies. ADHD is the most common neurodevelopmental disorder, affecting more than 1 in 10 kids. 1 in 6 kids has a developmental disability. 1 in 10 kids are now dealing with asthma. Heart disease is the 5th leading cause of death in 1 to 5-year-olds, with a 23% increase in juvenile diabetes. Now, this is a kind of a little side note, but a 23% increase in juvenile diabetes. And a lot of you have probably been seeing the news lately, with the new inoculations that are going out. And there's actually promotions with Krispy Kreme that if you show up with your card saying that you've had your shot, you get free donuts. Right? So we have this completely backwards view of what health and healthcare really should be, that rewarding people for doing something with the one thing that creates the comorbidities to begin with. It's mind-boggling of where we're currently at. 1 in 68 children are affected by autism, with it being 5 times more common in boys. And it says right on here, 33% of all childhood diseases are caused by environmental exposures. So some type of external stress that our kids' bodies can't manage and can't deal with. So what does that all boil down to? Well, it boils down to me to say it's time for a change. And I think that's why so many of you are on here tonight, because you're looking for something different. You're looking for more information on how to support your families in a way outside of that realm. And I couldn't be happier to share with you guys. Let me get my screen share going tonight so we can have some PowerPoint slides rocking. Let me know if you're seeing the PowerPoint. Give me a thumbs up if everything's good on the screen share. It should say Raising Healthy Kids Naturally, 7 Steps to Healthy, Happy Kids. Cool, we got some hands raised. That's awesome. We're good, cool. So step 0, right? Before we even get to step 1, is really choosing your guide, right? How do you choose the people that you want to work with? How do you choose the people that you can trust? And how do you know that you can trust them? Well, ultimately, it's going to lead to that gut feeling that you're being heard, that you're in the right place. It's going to lead to you being with a community of like-minded individuals. And ultimately, it's going to have the results that you want to see for yourself and your family. So the 3 current approaches to pediatric and prenatal and family health care are, number 1, the one that we're mostly currently stuck in, is this traditional medical approach. And Dr. Bob, he sent out a quick little 1-minute video on their Facebook page that couldn't have summed up this evening any better from his perspective. And that he said, that when we look at raising healthy kids naturally, His job as a pediatrician is to manage your symptoms, right? When kids get really sick, when they get to a point where their bodies are no longer able to fight off what's going on with them and they absolutely need that support, that's where he comes in. And he's absolutely brilliant and his team is brilliant. And quite honestly, if anyone on here is on the fence of who they should be working with as a pediatrician and as a group, New Kingdom Healthcare is amazing. And that is who it should be, because that is the model that so many of us are stuck in. And they don't have a Dr. Bob and they don't have a New Kingdom Pediatrics to look to kind of lean on to say, no, we're going to do a wait and see approach. We're not going to be really quick to medicate. We're not going to be, jump to conclusions here, because they trust this innate wisdom of our body's ability to heal. And they trust this idea of natural healthcare. So that's where we're currently at for most people, is we're stuck in a traditional medical model where some type of symptom arises. We kind of wait and the symptoms are there, and then we go to a doctor, we go to a medical doctor, they give us a diagnosis, they give us a name that they can call it, and then they give us, whatever their tools are in their toolbox, which are typically medications, drugs, and if it gets to a point, then they do surgery, right? Antibiotic after antibiotic, and then you do tubes in the ears, or you take the tonsils out. We have this progression of cascade that usually happens. And really what that leads to is where we're at in this infographic, right? That's the traditional model, and that's the model that's currently failing us as a society, as a community. I have my unicorn mug out tonight. It's kind of our official mascot here at Experience Wellness. And if you know of all of the groups that follow Dr. Bob, it's also the nickname that he gets is the unicorn. So a little bit to honor him tonight too. The second approach to healthcare is this natural and nutritional approach. And this is a place where many of you guys are. We're already looking at going gluten-free and casein-free and dairy-free. And, we're limiting sugars, and we're using essential oils, and you name it, we've kind of got all of these natural things in play. And that's amazing. And that is an unbelievable foundation for building healthy cells and creating good nutrition and really giving our bodies the fuel that it needs. And ultimately, a lot of times handling some of those symptoms more naturally as well. But we see so many moms and dads that come and sit down with us, knee to knee at a consultation about their kiddo. And they're already doing those things and they're still struggling. They're already doing those things and there's something missing. And so when we look a little bit deeper and go, well, what's another approach that we can take? That's where we come in. And that's a neurological approach. And it says right on there, subluxation-centered chiropractic, because when we look at this word subluxation, it means something's interfering with the way your nervous system is currently processing its environment and responding. So basically the input and output of your brain and nervous system isn't working the way that it's supposed to be. And if that foundation is off, nothing else is going to work to its true potential. If the foundational aspect of your health, which resides within your nervous system, isn't working properly, you'll never reach your true potential of health. So that's the big takeaway right away. I'm just going to hammer it home right off the bat, because what happens in our society right now in our healthcare is we have the whole system flipped, right? We go top down in this model. We go 1, 2, and 3, instead of going from the bottom up and going, let's build the foundation and then let's create health within. And then if something really bad happens, if we really get exposed to something nasty that our body can't deal with, then we reach out to Dr. Bob in New Kingdom and say, hey man, we need your help. One of my favorite meetings I ever had with him, I think we brought our third baby in just for a well check. Honestly, sometimes I just like to bring him in so I get to hang out with him. And he goes, you realize you never have to bring your kids in again, right? Like unless there's something really serious, like you really don't need to bring your kids in. Like they're super healthy, you know what you're doing. I'm like, yeah, but sometimes I just like to come and hang out with you. So when we talk about the nervous system, we're talking about the very first thing that develops in utero, right? The brain and spinal cord is the first thing that starts to develop. It's your first organ system that then branches out and creates everything else in your body, right? It is literally the foundation where everything comes from. It controls your immune system. It controls your muscle system. It controls your digestive system, your reproductive system, your hormonal system. I mean, you name it, everything is controlled and coordinated from your nervous system. So the big picture overview, before we dig into our real 7 steps of what we're going to do tonight, is that the nervous system is the boss, right? Think of the nervous system as like the mom in the family, right? It just runs the show. It does all the scheduling. It does the coordinating. It makes sure everything gets to the right places. Moms, you guys are incredible. Like, this is what you do every single day. You are the brain and nervous system of your family. We as dads, we're like the drivers, right? We get told what to do for the most part. Hey, you guys, there are some rock star dads that come into our office, but big picture moms, you guys are the boss. You run the show, you do everything. And you're the ones that we need to build up to make sure that everything in the family is working to its fullest potential. That's the nervous system in our body. We need to make sure our nervous system is firing on all cylinders, that it's uninterfered with, so that everything else in your body can be working to its fullest potential. Then number two, movement. We're going to dig into this big time tonight, that movement is life, right? And we're going to talk about the science of this tonight. But movement, it's for babies, it's for kids, it's for, adolescents, it's for you as parents sitting here who've likely, so many of us been isolated, sitting, working from home and not being able to work out, not being able to move your bodies, not being able to get that stimulation into your brain that your body craves for so long. So movement is life. Sleep. Here's one thing we know. Babies need to sleep. They need to sleep a lot. They need to sleep most of the day, and that doesn't really change as an importance for what we need, just the amount of time, right? Then your kids need to sleep, and then your adolescents need to sleep, and you as adults, you need sleep. It's recovery. You can't get too much sleep. Your body's not going to do it. You need to recover so that your body can work properly. Lastly, we need to live clean. We're going to talk about that tonight. That's that natural approach, right? Kids and chemicals don't mix. You and chemicals don't mix. Me and chemicals don't mix, right? Anytime chemicals are introduced to your body, it's a stressful substance that your body has to find a way to eliminate, right? So it then has to put resources into trying to find a way to eliminate something that's toxic for its system, not allowing those resources to be in your brain for full function, not allowing those resources to be in the rest of your body to do what it needs to be doing. All right, so let's really dig in. So, yes, we will get that infographic sent out to you guys via the email when we launch this whole recording to you as well. You guys are probably thinking, we've got 7 steps to go through tonight. This is going to take forever. I do talk a lot, but here's the good news. Steps 1 through 3, they're all on the first slide. Why? Because they're all part of the same aspect of your nervous system. So steps 1, 2, and 3 of raising healthy kids is eat, sleep, and poop, right? What does a baby need to do? They need to eat, sleep, and poop. If we can do those 3 things and your body can do those 3 things efficiently and effectively, the chances are you're going to have a really pretty healthy baby. We're going to have a really nice foundation. You're going to be happy. You're going to be happy, which means you get to sleep. And here's why. Because when we look at the nervous system, right, we have 2 different sides of your nervous system that can be activated or kind of stimulated to be in play. One side, we have this rest and digest function, right? Eat, sleep, poop. It's called your parasympathetic system. It's like your body's brake pedal. We work with a lot of kids in our office. We call them raging bull kids or kids on the gas pedal, kind of that. And then we have these kids that are like brake pedal kids, right? Eat, sleep, and poop. The opposite side of that is the sympathetic nervous system, which is your fight or flight response. When we go into a fight or flight response, your body's in survival mode. We're going to talk about how that happens tonight. But when our bodies trigger into that sympathetic fight or flight response, what gets shut down? Digestion, rest, and elimination, right? So eat, sleep, and poop are the 3 things that get really messed up when your body goes into a fight or flight response. You as well, right? You know you've been stressed through all of this stuff. Chances are you're dealing with some digestive issues, or you're dealing with some sleep issues, or you're dealing with some other things that are happening with your elimination, poop problems, constipation, diarrhea, cyclical stuff. We talk about poop all the time in our office. I'm just going to kind of let it fly. Why? Because it is so important to be eating, assimilating those nutrients, sleeping, getting rest, and eliminating. That is the foundation. In order for that foundation to happen, all of these areas of your nervous system need to be working really, really well. So I kind of have what we call our spinal fuse box picture on here, because you can actually take your spine and you can take the nervous system and you can kind of area by area know what's being under control and what's being stressed. Number 1 at the very, very top, this is the boss of your nervous system right up here. This is what's called C1, or your atlas. You know, atlas, you know, have the world on his shoulders. The atlas holds up your brainstem, it holds up your skull, and it is the most intricate neurology right in here. And it also just happens to be the most stressed area during the birth process and as babies. You know, I want you to think about this for a second. A baby is born, and you go to the first family function, and the first thing that someone says or that you might say when you hand the baby over to, you know, maybe someone who isn't used to holding babies, is say, support the head, right? Support the head. Why? Because they can't support it themselves. And the most delicate neurology is right up here in the brainstem and at the upper part of the neck. So it's so, so important. It's the boss of the central nervous system. It's the boss of what's called the autonomic nervous system, which controls and coordinates all of the internal functions happening within your body. C2 below that is what we call your axis. It's called the axis because it does a lot of rotation. It's what we consider the connector and coordinator and communicator of your nervous system. It has a ton to do with drainage of what's going on in the upper neck. And then with that, we have what's called the vagus nerve. And so many of you, if you guys are in tune with kind of the neurosensory world and the autism world, the vagus nerve is kind of the buzz thing right now going around, polyvagal theory, and so many research studies and researchers are out studying the vagus nerve right now because it literally says on this thing, it says the all things nerve. It goes down and produces auxiliary power for digestion and heart rhythms and respiratory rates and reproduction and all of everything in your body. I have this poster on the wall back here, and the vagus nerve basically snakes down through every single organ that's on there, and it comes out of the skull right up here at the base of your neck. So if we have an issue at the top part of your neck, we can have an issue with every single part of your internal system because of the vagus nerve. It is so important. We get into the mid back, and it says right in here, the chopper upper region. That's your digestive region, T6, 7, 8, that whole section right there. It works in through making sure that your food gets properly digested. It works with pancreas and liver and all the things that create enzymes and create, you know, so many good things for your body. That's the area of the system that does that. Then it works down a little bit, T12, the sorting and warehousing region, where things are being absorbed and being, you know, brought into your body to be, you know, to be utilized and being sent. And then at the bottom part of your spine, we call it the poop button. Why? Because when kids aren't pooping, we look to the sacrum, we look to that part of your parasympathetic nervous system, and we look to stimulate the rest and digest functions. We look for subluxation or interference to those areas of your body, and all of a sudden, restoration of normal happens, and it's a beautiful thing. We have a poster in our office. I'm actually looking at it right behind the computer here, and it says, "Normal is brilliant." Our job as chiropractors, and what should be the jobs of any real medical professional, is how do we restore the body, your kids, you, how do we restore your system to normal? Because a normal functioning nervous system, a normal functioning human body is brilliant. The innate intelligence that runs you is brilliant, and it doesn't mess things up. So when there's interference, we've got a problem. So once we start to work through and once we start to build this foundation of health, then we have to understand that we need to be prepared for the body to actually kick the sick. You know, this workshop used to actually be called Kick the Sick. And your body kicks the sick without pills, without drugs, without help, because normal is what needs to happen. So I have two different studies on here, and we're going to talk a little bit about what normal functioning is when we talk about Kick the Sick, right? We have this ability for our body to expel environmental toxins or things that it doesn't like, right? We have a study on here that says cough management, a practical approach. So what is the purpose of this respiratory system? Like when your body coughs, right? Think about it. Okay, I just spent the whole, like the last 3 weeks out in the woods, making maple syrup, and we do everything open fire. So you deal with a lot of smoke, right? So over the last 3 weeks, I've had a cough more than I have before. Why? Because I've brought in a whole lot of toxic stuff into my lungs, and my body is doing exactly what it's programmed to do, which is cough and expel that stuff right back out, right? So a cough is not a bad thing. We're so programmed to believe that symptoms are the enemy, instead of going, the symptoms are a clue. The symptoms are a clue to what my body is really trying to do. And it's a clue for us as practitioners to go, okay, what does your body need as support to help boost it up? What does your body need to help support it, to help do this process faster, if it needs anything at all? Chances are it's doing exactly what it needs to be doing at the exact right time, and it's just really inconvenient for us. This year alone has been just a mess. We've had a lot of kids in our office that have chronic croupy cough stuff that we see. And the big worry for them this year was that what if the stuff that we know is kind of a thing that they've dealt with in the past comes back and they get kicked out of school for 2 weeks, unless they go get invasive testing done or go get other things done. So when we can actually honor the system of the body that does exactly what it's supposed to do, it's really cool to be able to support that. The other piece on here is a fever. We talk about fever all the time in our office because one, it's a wonderful thing, and two, if we didn't have it, our bodies would sit and fester with bacteria and viruses unchecked, and we'd be in a whole world of hurt, right? I mean, if you've ever been camping and you take just lake water that you know has bacteria in it, the one thing that you can do is just heat it up, right? You boil it. Why? Because you need to kill the bacteria. You need to kill the stuff that's in there so that your body can handle it. Well, your body's the same way, right? When you get exposed to bacteria, when you get exposed to viruses, when you get exposed to things that your body doesn't want there, the internal mechanism says, turn up the heat and let's kill this stuff off. The fever is an overall truly beneficial process for our bodies because it's the only way that we can actually naturally kill these things out of our systems and kick it out, right? It's brilliant. And the first thing we're told to do is give them children's Tylenol. We need to suppress the fever. We have to get the fever down. And all we're doing is prolonging the inevitable of letting your body actually heal. One of the greatest ways that our kids can actually develop a stronger immune system is they need to go outside. They need to play in the dirt. They need to be exposed to the stuff. You have to be exposed to viruses. You have to be exposed to bacteria. You have to be exposed to things and give your body a challenge so that it gets stronger. When babies are born, they aren't born with this bulletproof immune system. They get their immune system as babies from the nursing mom. There's this beautiful relationship that happens between a baby that's nursing and the mom, where the saliva of the baby, through the areola actually triggers the mom's body to produce antibodies for the baby for exactly what they need. So the baby is actually borrowing or using the mom's immune system as it works to develop its own. And the only way a baby develops its own immune system, or develops a strong immune system, is through exposure. So kids need to play in the dirt. They've done study after study that say farm kids and country-raised kids that are outside all the time have stronger immune systems because they're exposed to so much more. They have less allergies. They've shown that people that have pets and animals in the house have lower rates of asthma and allergies than people that don't, for that exact same reason. So our bodies need to be challenged. We need to be exposed. And an entire year that we have had of isolation and shut in and don't go outside and don't be exposed to fresh air and wear a mask and close off your respiratory systems. And then when you do cough and breathe out, it's stuck there and you just fester. Like, there isn't a worse situation for the health of our kids than what we've been through for the last year. But I'll tell you what, kids are resilient. Your nervous system is resilient, and they are so adaptable, and they're going to continue to get better, and they're going to continue to heal, because you're going to have a team that's willing to work for you and work to help you to get through all of this. So when we look at what's the real root cause, there's this saying that inflammation is the root of all disease. Inflammation is the root of all, you name it. And, as chiropractors, it's a doctor of chiropractic, a DC degree. It's often joked or said that we're doctors of cause, DC, because we sit and we go, well, why, right? We're like your 3-year-old, 4-year-old kid that every time you say something, they say, but why? But why? Inflammation is the cause of all disease, but why? They're actually reversing all of the literature right now about acute injury and ice. They're saying you should no longer ice acute injuries to prevent inflammation because, what do you know? the natural inflammatory process within your body is the right thing. Your body heals faster when the natural inflammatory process takes place. The issue is when you have unchecked inflammation residing through your body. So when we work backwards, when we have these three eyes on here, inflammation is number 3. Unchecked inflammation is not good in your body. It's not good in your kids. But why is it unchecked to begin with? You know, what's the real reason that the body is having this stuck on chronic inflammatory process? And if we work back up the system, it's because there's an imbalance somewhere in the body's ability to process and get that inflammation out, or to not produce so much to begin with. And so if there's an imbalance, there has to be an interference, right? If we start this whole evening saying that we have this unbelievable innate wisdom within our bodies to do basically work normally, and that's within our nervous system. And if our body's not working normally, if there's an imbalance in the way that we're producing inflammation, if there's an imbalance in the way that we're handling foods and what we're doing, then we go back to the nervous system first. Because if there's an interference there, if there's subluxation patterns stuck within your nervous system, chances are we're never going to get through that imbalance. And that inflammatory process is really going to run unchecked for a long, long time. So when we work the other way around, you know, we don't have to be so worried about every single nutritional thing. We don't have to be so worried about every single thing that we get exposed to, because we know that our bodies are able to handle it. We know that our bodies are able to move through and create health the way that they're designed to do that. So what's number 5? 5 is what happens kind of at home, right? Stocking up on nature's medicine cabinet. Now, I am by no means an expert on, you know, on essential oils. I'm not an expert on nutrition. I'm not an expert on supplementation. I know very much the foundation of what we do with our family, and we can make some recommendations, but we rely heavily on our brilliant, you know, co-management, co-collaborators, you know, referral partners in our office. And one of the best things that we do for our office is on a quarterly basis, we have essential oils workshops that really dig into, you know, plant-based medicine. We have one coming up next Monday. We happen to use doTERRA products. A lot of you out there probably use Young Living. They're both awesome. You'll get the same information, you know, kind of either way. I mean, if you use Young Living and you log on to our workshop, you'll absolutely love it, and you won't need to buy any new products. So I'm going to include that registration in our email link too, because I encourage you all to get on there and really stock up your knowledge on how you can better work with your kids when they do start to deal with some things. I wasn't raised even on the natural route. You know, I grew up in the country, and you know, we had a big garden, we had all that, but we also had the medicine cabinet. You know, we also had a lot of very, you know, store-bought food. You know, it was a lot, you know, it was homemade every night, but by no means would I say we were, you know, we were working with nature's medicine cabinet and doing a lot of supplements and all that kind of stuff. I didn't get my first chiropractic adjustment until I was a senior in college, and it changed my life enough to completely, you know, change course for me. But really, there's so many. It could be a whole weekend, you know, seminar on essential oils and nutrition and supplements and all those things. So know that, you know, things like natural raw honey and oils and, you know, vitamin D and vitamin C, and just like the basics can be so effective, but also having someone on your team to help manage that. The next thing we're going to dig into is really understanding and preventing what we call the perfect storm. Because when all of those other things are in play, right? You're eating right, you're using oils, you're doing all the right things. If we've been through this process, it is incredibly hard to get out of it without someone measuring, analyzing, and working with your nervous system. So when we talk about the perfect storm, we're talking about a series of triggers that shift your body from a parasympathetic, rest and digest, calm, healing nervous system to a fight or flight, sympathetic overload, you know, gas pedal down nervous system that isn't accessing its healing potential. And to be really honest, it starts so much earlier than most people think. That's why I said right away at the beginning, new people coming on or new people being introduced to us, I get so excited if we get to work with people before they even get pregnant, before they start having kids, before we have a chance to kind of work into this perfect storm, because the fertility and pregnancy stress is the first real insult that happens that starts to basically take that gas pedal and start to move it into that sympathetic fight or flight mode. We now have a healthcare system around fertility and pregnancy that basically treats it as a medical condition, right? We're basically treating, babies in utero as something that needs to be managed and basically pulled out, rather than a process that is to be honored and worked with and really, held up as this incredible thing that happens in nature. And if we could, we just wish you could give, hug those moms and hug those people and do everything you can to reduce the stress response, because a pregnant mom shares a nervous system with their unborn baby. And so if the stress starts to trigger in pregnancy, or even before, if we're starting, if we're dealing with anxiety and we're anxious and we're unhealthy before we get pregnant, that's the foundation that the baby's going to grow with. So we're oftentimes leading right into, unhealthy babies before we even realize it. Then from there, we move right into the medical intervention at labor and delivery. Now, sitting down with, for 9 years, I've been in practice and doing work with the perfect storm and working with parents. There isn't a more common denominator for kids that are on the spectrum and kind of working this neurosensory world than medical intervention at labor and delivery. C-section delivery, cord wrapped, forceps, vacuum, forceful delivery, emergency deliveries, all those types of things. And the reason is it puts an incredible amount of stress on the most delicate structures of your nervous system, the brainstem. When you think about that, we talked about, protect the head, hold the head when you're holding a baby. Well, when a baby is born, all too often we're seeing the distractive force that's being used to get the baby out. And don't get me wrong, sometimes these are absolutely necessary. Right? C-sections can be absolutely necessary. We had one. Our first of our now soon to be 4 was born via C-section, and it was necessary. 1 out of 10 kids, a C-section is supposed to be, a normal, necessary thing according to World Health Organization. But right now in the United States, it's trending up over 33% of all births across the United States are born via C-section, and in Minnesota, we're really no better. We have some hospitals in the metro here that are, elevated way over 30%, and we have some that are down in the low 20s, and they serve very similar demographics, very similar market of people. So it really has to do with the team that you choose. But when we have that kind of interference and that kind of stress and that kind of physical trauma that happens right up here at the very, very top, that subluxation locks in and it doesn't let go unless you have someone that's trained to actually help it release, that help it become adjusted back to normal and back to life and back to what should be a brilliant, healthy, baby that's just living in a state of ease with eat, sleep, and poop on a regular basis. So what does the perfect storm look like in a baby? Stressed, colicky, neuromotor challenges with these soft signs of torticollis and things, and flattening of the head and plagiocephaly, and maybe issues with nursing. They don't latch well. They don't want to, go to one side versus the other. They're lazy, lazy latch. They don't eat. They don't have the neuromotor control of the upper neck to actually use their tongue and nurse the way that they're supposed to. There's so many indicators of subluxation in the upper neck immediately when a baby is born that could really prevent so many of these next phases that come through. The next thing that happens after you deal with this perfect storm baby is the perfect storm toddler. So often we're told they'll grow out of it. Don't worry, they'll grow out of it. The truth is they don't grow out of anything. Their body adapts around it and they grow into the next challenge, right? We see big colicky babies, digestive problems with babies, and it moves into this constantly sick, challenged toddler with, again, more neuromotor challenges. Maybe they walk late, or they crawl funny, or maybe they don't crawl. Their motor control is off. They don't hold their head up very well. They have all of these delayed motor signs and things where their body is not coordinating properly, and they're all there. What happens after we have a constantly sick, kind of immune challenged toddler? Well, they grow out of it. No, they grow into the next thing, sensory and spectrum, kind of that stuck neurologic kiddo where they're stuck in, there's so much tension and rigidity, or maybe that's our raging bull kiddo. On the other side of it, we have the drunken bull kiddo who's just, they're really undertone and they're clumsy and they don't have the coordination that we want to have. That's kind of two ends of our neurologic spectrum once we get into this perfect storm world. And what does that move into? Exhausted, angry, anxious, depressed, emotional things going on through the teenage years. And then after that, what does it look like? It looks like us. It looks like the American society as adults: depression, overweight, people raving about their dad bods, right? But really, I mean, overabundance of medication and antidepressants and anti-anxiety medication. And, we're seeing this huge meteoric rise of adults being diagnosed with things like ADHD and ADD and neurological conditions and being medicated. Why? Because they've been in this storm for a long, long time. They say you go to Harvard if you want to hear something smart. So we pull them right into this. And this is the Harvard Developing Child discussion, saying that the interaction of genes and experiences shape the developing brain. So many people, we have this traditional model that says that our genes are, our health is a result of bad luck or bad genes. I'm here to tell you that is not the case. There is a small percentage of people that have predispositions to certain things, and I honor that and I understand that. But for the vast, vast majority of people out there, the interaction of our genes and experiences are what shape the developing brain and really, truly provide the blueprint in the formation of your brain circuits, which ultimately, like we said, controls and coordinates your entire body. So what does that mean? It means that toxic stress weakens the architecture, basically the connections in your brain over time. So it leads to lifelong problems in learning and behavior and physical and mental health. Why? Because chronic stress challenges your nervous system to a way that it doesn't connect and develop the way that it's supposed to. And so if we're talking about a world that we're living in right now where, fearful, stressful pregnancies and hard labors and deliveries and sick kiddos and challenges right now socially like we've never seen before, and challenges with technology like we've never seen before, it's becoming more and more apparent just the amount of stress that kids are under. And it's really eye-opening when you start to look at that. And then we look at the meteoric rise of things like autism and sensory issues and challenges with behavior in kids and challenges with sickness and everything that we have in this infographic, right? So if we are challenging our nervous system to a point that it isn't developing properly because of the stress that it's under, this is what we're dealing with. So when we deal with subluxation, when we deal with birth injury, when we deal with traumatic birth process, and we deal with these perfect storm cases, when we deal with chronic sickness, and we deal with all of that, it's because our body is stuck in a stress mode. Our body is stuck with stress on, and when that happens, the sympathetic system is always engaged and it downregulates all of the beautiful, wonderful, healthy functions of rest, digest, eat, sleep, poop, and healing. So we have to get these kids out of the sympathetic mode. We have to get these kids out of fight or flight. We have to get them back into this normal function of balance. Now that survival mode is really, really important in very, very short bursts, because otherwise we wouldn't be here, right? The human race has survived this long because we have this ability to fight or flight. We have this stress response that serves us in survival. But we live in a society that is constantly stuck on. The stress is stuck on in our system, it's stuck on in your system, and that patterns right down into our kids, into a society now that is sicker than it's ever been. So we're going to talk about movement matters, right? So we're on to step number 7. And how our body actually works and develops and moves through is that our brains are actually built from the bottom up and the back forward, right? Our primitive brain is down here. All of those survival mechanisms, all of that rest and digest function, it all sits in the primitive brain, which is way down here. And then it starts to move forward as it grows and develops. And all those things developed into higher levels of learning and higher levels of ability. So the motor stuff is actually what starts first. The ability to move, the ability to actually move the mouth and move the tongue and work to nurse and have all that, that's a motor function, right? We have these muscles in here. But we also have muscles that line our entire digestive system called peristalsis, right? That actually works down. And so we have this neuromotor function that has to work first. And then the gut develops, and then the immune system develops, and then speech develops, and then social emotional develops, and behavior and emotion. All those things come next, right? But if we're missing those early milestones, we start that developmental delay very early, and sometimes it's really hard to get back out of it. So I'm gonna give you a little extra credit. So I've got 3 kids right now, and if I tell my kids to do something, if I tell all 3 of my kids to go and do something, the chances of all 3 of them listening to what I'm saying and doing exactly what I say and listening and doing these things, I mean, it's almost nothing. I might as well go buy a lottery ticket that have better chances, right? Why? Because kids pattern their behavior after their parents. Kids don't do what we say, they do what we do. So the take-home piece to this last message for you guys is that you need to model great health for your kids, right? If you want your kids to learn to be fit and learn to exercise and learn the importance of movement, you have to move your own body yourselves, right? If you want your kids to eat well and you want your kids to try new foods, you have to model that behavior. Involve your kids in your cooking. We love in our house, giving our kids vegetables to chop and be a part of the actual cooking process, because it gives them ownership of their own health from a very young age, right? You have to be the role model that you want your kids to develop into. If you want your kids to get up on a table and get adjusted at the chiropractor, chances are you should be getting adjusted too, right? I'm going to be very upfront. Families that go to the chiropractor together get healthy together. We love that, right? We love serving full families here at our office because it's a foundation of health. And it isn't because we're better than anyone else. It's because the foundation of your health starts with your nervous system. And so when you start there, then we get to add in all these other things, and we get to prevent so many of these perfect storm cases down the road, because we start with this foundation of a strong nervous system. We move into strong, healthy nutrition. We move into, the opportunity to grow and develop as we should. And then we have a brilliant team of people with New Kingdom Pediatrics and Dr. Bob Zajac, and going, if something goes wrong along the way, that's who we want. That's who we want helping us and helping guide us to make those tough decisions if and when the time comes. So I implore you to look at yourselves first when we start to examine health for raising healthy kids, and go, are you being the role model that you want your kids to look forward? And so many times it's a tough conversation to have, because you start to see all the behaviors that you might be modeling that might not be the best interest for your kids to grow into. The top scan on here, that red, orange, yellow, green graph that we have on here, is what's called heart rate variability. It's one of the foundational measurements that we take in our office. Heart rate variability measures where do you sit on a scale of fight or flight and rest and digest. And it is one of the first things we do with every person that comes into our office, because we get a baseline of how well your nervous system is adapting to the environment, how well your nervous system is adapting to the stress you're putting on it. And what you'll see is on those 3 graphs right there, anything on that far left is a gas pedal mode sympathetic system. The lower you are, the more your battery is drained, the lower your reserve is. Once you get up into that green zone, you've got a nice high battery charge, you've got a balanced nervous system, you are adaptable, you are healthy, you can handle what life's throwing at you, and that's what we want for every single one of you guys that's on here watching this tonight. The bottom scan on there is what we call an EMG scan. We said how important motor function is. The EMG measures the motor aspect of the spine. It actually measures the muscle firing energy segment by segment up your spine, and gives us a reading of symmetry and balance and where things are firing and where they're imbalanced, and how much energy is in the system. When we see kids that are super high energy, kind of ADHD, raging bull kind of kids, they'll be 300% of a normal energy. Why? Because there's so much energy locked in their systems. And when we get that out, when they start getting adjusted, when their nervous system starts to balance, brilliant things happen and normal starts to restore. And so we use the most advanced technology in our office to make sure that we are not only knowing what the underlying causes are, the underlying struggles that these kids are going through, but we have objective data to move people through a care plan and actually see that things are changing, right? It isn't a guess and check. It isn't, I hope this works. It's, we're going to monitor your nervous system. We're going to monitor the foundation of health within your body, and we're going to know whether or not your adaptability is changing. We're going to know whether or not your ability to handle stress is improving. We're going to know how your brain and body are communicating. So when we talk about action steps for raising healthy kids naturally, when we talk about what's next, what do you do? The number one thing you need to do is you need to get, a new guide, Dr. Bob, it's New Kingdom Pediatrics, or an additional guide, Experience Wellness Chiropractic, a chiropractor in your area, if it's needed. Why? Because the team that you rely on is going to be the trusted guides that make those decisions almost for you, right? Because they're the ones that you trust. They're the ones that you're going to trust to have those conversations with. And if they can help lead that conversation in a more natural, more positive way to help heal and help more fostering natural development, that's exactly what you want. And if you're out of the metro area here, we're in Plymouth, Minnesota, we'll find somebody for you. We have a huge network across the United States and Canada with a group that we work with that does this workshop. They do all of this kind of work. They do the exact same scans as us. If you're seeing a chiropractor that doesn't utilize these scans, I'd say go find one that does, right? Because you can't work with the nervous system if you're not measuring and assessing the nervous system, right? You can't say that you're stuck and not adapting well without an ability to measure that. If you follow these 7 steps that we outlined here tonight, you are going to be exponentially better off than you were before. And so the last thing that I want to tell you guys is get your family scanned, right? Number one thing we do is we start with a set of neurological scans to say, where is your baseline? What is your starting point? A lot of times people listen to this workshop and they get really upset about the decisions that have been made in the past or where they're at. And we don't bring any of that into it. We say, let's put a stake in the ground. And today is where we are, right? And the stake is in the ground so that as we move forward, we always have a spot to look back and go, that's where I made the decision to start to care for my family differently. That's where I made the decision to start to have a more natural approach to the way that we care for our kids and the way that we raise our family. I really, truly hope you guys got a lot out of tonight's workshop. We have people all over Minnesota and other states on watching tonight. So this isn't like a close, click this button, come to our office. But Dr. Brenna just shared our contact us on our website. Feel free to go there. That has a direct link if you want to get scheduled with us. We're more than happy to answer questions you have. Direct message us. You can view us on Instagram. You can find us on Facebook. We are an open book for you guys. We want to be, nothing more than a resource to help move you guys, forward in your health journey for yourselves, for your kids, for your families. And we want to be, we want to be a guide, right? We don't want to be the ones with the answers to tell you what we do. We want to be the ones that get to sit knee to knee with you and have the conversations about how you want to care for your kids and where you're struggling and what changes that you really want to make. So thank you so much for being on tonight. Reach out to us. We have our email there too, info@experiencewellnessmn.com is how you can get in touch with us directly, or you can go right to the link and schedule or request a time to come into our office and get scanned. It's the foundation of your health. It's your nervous system. It's worth it because you're worth it. So thank you so much for being with us tonight. I'm going to stop the recording now. I'll stop the share.